Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a slightly green week, up about 1.8%, 8,000, although Bitcoin sort of largely flat, which we'll sort of come back to. It's been an interesting week. We had the CoinShares report from the previous week. Sort of we knew this was extremely high because we have Bitcoin and Ethereum running. 4.39 billion of inflows. Not sure whether that's a new record. I think it could be. Because, yes, interesting. Bitcoin and Ethereum almost exactly the same on weekly inflows. And sort of spoiler alert, this looks like it's going to flip next week to Ethereum being considerably larger. But yeah, we had 16 million out of the multi-asset funds, although they have 7.5 billion in total assets under management, so it's not huge. XRP went back to inflows, 36 million, but Solana continued with 39 million inflows, 153 on the monthly, so that's a pretty good total. 9 million into Sui as well, starting to sort of pick up a little bit of pace, and a little bit into Cardano, Chainlink, 8 million, and 8.8 million into shorting Bitcoin. So best of luck with that. Although they may have sort of made a little bit of money this week with the drop down to 115. And yeah, on the country basis, flows into Australia, Hong Kong, quite a bit into Switzerland, and outflows from Brazil, Germany, and Sweden. So all still a little bit all over the place, but not huge numbers, of course. So, as mentioned, the Bitcoin flows on the ETFs this week are only just positive. We had 3 days of straight outflows overall. Monday and Tuesday, both 0 days for BlackRock. Both days, no inflows into Fidelity, a small outflow on Monday, and red pretty much everywhere else. And then Wednesday did have 142 million into BlackRock, but 227 out of Fidelity. So that was a negative day again. And then you sort of flip back to some relatively small inflow days, a little bit out of grayscale. But yeah, sort of double digits for BlackRock, which sort of they have been doing a lot better than that recently. But yeah, so very muted. Ethereum, on the other hand, is going absolutely bananas. I mean, you can see on the right hand side, very much firmly in triple digits sort of, every day. It's been 8th of July since we saw a double digit, and this is sort of largely on the BlackRock side. No huge surprise there, I suppose. Although Fidelity got a little bit more than BlackRock on Monday, and Thursday, 0 into BlackRock on Thursday, but 210 into Fidelity, sort of kept that a significantly positive day. And then BlackRock back with 440 million on Friday. BlackRock obviously still dwarfing Fidelity in terms of inflows. So, yeah, this week, as I say, we're going to see a very strong Ethereum inflow week, and Bitcoin extremely muted, sort of, I think 75, 100 million positive overall, maybe, but nothing more than that. And the little Solana one, just the Rex Osprey ETF, seeing a small amount of inflows, 27 million in total. Yeah, a couple of 0 days and sort of 12, 13 million, similar to what I've been doing before, but somewhat steady, I suppose. It's had 120 million of inflows for what is a very, very small ETF. I'm sure if we had a BlackRock Solana, then we would be seeing a completely different story. This is sort of more similar to the Valkyrie and people like that, Franklin Templeton ETFs for Bitcoin. See sort of similar amount of inflows, really. So, looking at the treasury companies, we got Sailor, Stay Humble, and Stack Sats. We got Sequans, if I'm saying that correctly, bought 1,264. They're turning out to be quite a significant buyer. 150 million, similar previous week, and yeah. 116,000 average, so that's incredibly high, obviously, as they've just started buying. Strategy themselves bought 6,220, so that's a big buy. 730 million is sort of slightly higher than current price, so yeah, they sort of paid quite a bit. 71,700 average now, so that's quite high. And yeah, they hold 607,000. Some of the other boys, you've got H100, so this is a Swedish firm, 140 Bitcoin. They now hold 510, so that's quite good. Sort of smallish company. They strategy have yet another preferred stock. So if this one's from the looks of it paying more dividends, then at some point I'm sure they are going to need to start selling some Bitcoin, which is sort of the worry on the first headline. It's something they have to do if they're sort of buying. The idea, I'm sure, is that they buy sort of 6,000 Bitcoin, price goes up, and then to pay the dividend, they sell 1,000 Bitcoin, say, or 500 Bitcoin, and they're significantly up on the deal. And with those preferred stock, of course, that is not increasing with the price of Bitcoin. They just get a 10% dividend. You got a second purchase from H100 Group, 118, and Semler Scientific, 175. The Smarter Web Company, the UK boys, 225. These are, again, quite big buys for, quite big buy for the UK side. That's, over 10% of what they have, although that, percentage is drastically going down every time they make a purchase. Kango, the big, sort of relatively big new mining company, mined 147 Bitcoin. I think they were one of the ones that want to get to sort of 30 or 50 exahash. So that's, yeah, we'd rather they sort of basically didn't exist. But there you go, everyone wants to mine. And yeah, the STRC stock went quite well, upsizes the deal from 500 million to 2.5 billion. So a lot of people saying there's sort of limited demand for new stuff from strategy. I think this would indicate otherwise. Maybe sort of less demand for the convertible zero coupon debt that converts into MicroStrategy shares basically. But there's plenty of demand for sort of 10% dividend stuff. So there you go. But the big news this week, and what it seems likely did cause the drop to 115,000, or sort of high 114,000, was a very old whale from 2011. Sort of rumours that it is actually an old website that sort of went bust, similar to Mt. Gox. Looks like My Bitcoins. A lot of people were thinking this was Roger Ver initially, Bitcoin Jesus, as they used to call him back in the day. Certainly not now, as he's Bitcoin Cash man. But yeah, looks like it could have been either the founder of that site that got it back, or potentially the hacker that held on to 80,000 Bitcoin for 14 years and has now sold through Galaxy Digital. There's a lot of debate about when it was sold and sort of it was sent to Galaxy Digital. A lot of people were tweeting that it had already been sold just because it was sent to Galaxy. Seems like that wasn't the case. It was sort of somewhat taken their time, but then it does seem that sort of they said they'd sold 30,000, but then they sort of sold the remainder somewhat clumsily in the sort of middle of the night. A lot of people saying there was no way to do this properly, or way to do it without affecting price. But yeah, I'm sort of in disagreement with that. I think it could have been done a lot better. Um, didn't seem to have been even talked about doing through OTC markets or the Bitcoin strategy companies could be treasury companies could have bought a great deal of it. They're buying sort of thousands every week, but then their purchases wouldn't then be affecting the market. So overall, I'm sure it balances out, but this maybe cause some liquidations and leverage to be flushed from the system, which I guess is sort of probably a good thing. You don't want to be building up price on leverage. So yeah, Galaxy came out and confirmed this. I was sort of hesitant to report it as all sold, but Galaxy did come out and say we have completed the sale of 80,000 Bitcoin, over $9 billion. Yeah, they're sort of saying it was all sold into open market order books. I think that's debatable, but yeah, it's a lot of people now sort of saying 80,000 has been sold, and we dipped $3,000. So yeah, there was maybe talk of this even when we were at sort of 120, 123. So you could say at the very most $8,000 drop, and already back at 118. So pretty strong, pretty resilient. Tesla making the headlines as well. Not really sort of anything new happening. This is just people love to sort of go back and rag on people that have sold their Bitcoin, of course. Tesla at one point had, I think, 47,000 Bitcoin, which, would have put them third or fourth in the world. So, certainly one of the biggest public companies in the world with Bitcoin. And then they sort of sold part of it in sort of mid 2021. Elon said to test liquidity, and then in sort of mid 2022, whether it could be argued whether they needed the money or not. I wouldn't have thought so. And Fed funds rate was less than 1%, with it being 4.25 now, 4.5, can't remember. But yeah, sort of 0.5% Fed funds rate, I think it was. And yeah, they sold 75% of their Bitcoin, I think about 29,000 Bitcoin, when it was about $30,000. So yeah, everyone's saying if they'd have held on to it for now, they would have had sort of $3 billion more. Unfortunate, I suppose, but yeah, that's Elon. Never really said that much about it, just sort of said time wasn't right for it or something. I kind of wonder whether they needed the money. So yeah, you could say sort of what is the value of what they built with that 2 billion, or it wasn't 2 billion back then, but they obviously put that money into something that has potentially gained value since then. They could be better off. People sort of joking that they've missed out on $2 or $3 billion. Obviously, the company's worth 800 billion now, but I suppose it was worth about the same back then. So, yeah, a little bit of a toss-up, but let me know what you guys think. Not been on the Treasury Company's website for a little while. I know the entity's holding is up to 281. I think last time I came on the site it was at about 235. So we've certainly got some new companies. Not a huge amount of change at the top. Obviously we've got Strategy and Marathon, and then 21. This is the Jack Mallers, Cantor Fitzgerald one. Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company, which I think is the new Adam Back one. Again, sort of depends what you think about him sort of giving his Bitcoin to a company and probably selling shares of the company as opposed to selling his Bitcoin directly. That could in theory be better for Bitcoin price and worse for the shareholders of whoever owns this company. And yeah, Riot, Donald Trump media as well. 18,000 Bitcoin. That is quite a substantial amount of Bitcoin. Metaplanet up there, and Galaxy again. Galaxy hold 12,800 of their own Bitcoin. A lot of people were saying, the 80,000 Bitcoin couldn't have been sold through Galaxy because they were thinking it was Galaxy's own Bitcoin. They do act on behalf of third parties, of course, and then yeah, goes all the way down to the usual companies. GameStop, of course, still only hold 550 million, despite having, I think, 5 billion in cash on the balance sheet, earning 4% per year. So an enormous amount. And basically all of the all of the Bitcoin that they bought, they issued convertible debt to buy. So I think that's why people are still rather unhappy with the CEO. I know I would be if they had 5 billion in cash, essentially not doing anything for years now, basically since the short squeeze time. So yeah, very odd. Do think it's worth highlighting as well the ETFs. You got strategy at 607,000. iShares Bitcoin Trust now at 735, because they are doing sort of in many weeks a sort of strategy sized buy. 500-600 million dollars. iBit are doing that every day. Not recently, of course, in the last week, but certainly over the last sort of couple of months. Strategy buying 500 million a week, and iShares gaining 500 million a day. So it's not hard to see them grow and grow and grow. Fidelity, of course, up to 206,000. Not quite up there, but still pretty solid. And Grayscale Bitcoin Trust down to 185,000, although the mini one is now up to 44. So that's taken some of that outflow. But yeah, Grayscale were at sort of 600,000, I think, at one point. So yeah, they'll, I suppose, still be happy because they're getting fees on a much higher priced Bitcoin, so they still sort of make kind of the same amount of money as they used to. Worth looking at Tether as well. This is sort of not the indicator that it used to be. A lot of people would say, if Tether's going up, then it means people are sort of buying that to potentially get into the crypto space, and then sort of maybe go and buy Bitcoin, or most likely sort of go and buy altcoins, where I think today, obviously, it's used by emerging market countries that sort of want to hedge against their own currency. Saw a screenshot of I think a supermarket in Bolivia, which actually had things priced only in USDT. They didn't have anything priced in, or nothing on the screenshot. It wasn't priced in the I can't remember what their currency is. It's not the Bolivar, that's Venezuela, isn't it? But yeah, it wasn't priced in their currency. It was priced in Tether. So, and not even in US dollars. They actually want Tether specifically. So there you go. So you might get Tether buying, which doesn't actually lead to anything. It is just Tether buying, and that's it. Although, a small positive, I suppose, the more Tether in circulation, Tether themselves then go and buy Bitcoin. I'm sure we'll get shortly another announcement that Tether own, another 10,000, 15,000 Bitcoin. They tend to do theirs quarterly rather than sort of more frequently like the treasury companies. But yeah, they announced sort of a huge purchase of Bitcoin with the enormous profit from this 163 billion in Tether. And so looking at the last 7 days, you can see it's just increasing quite drastically. Looking at sort of the last month, you can see it's sort of going up a billion or so every sort of couple of days, 3 days, and it's very steady. Sort of for the last month, USDC chart, I wouldn't go on to that, but it's basically up, but much less steady. They get relatively significant outflow days, and then it goes up again. Where Tether, you can see sort of it smooths out on the yearly chart, is just up, 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 forever and ever. So, yeah, well done, Teva. Looking at hash rate for the miners, obviously I'm very, very focused on this and the miners. And last week or so, we've seen some rather large spikes. Got to 1.1 zeta hash. I'm still calling this. I think it sort of intraday went a little bit higher than that. And then, yeah, we got a little low period, went back up to 1.07, and I suppose is relatively high. And sort of the last day, again, it keeps coming back down. Has come down to 905, 902.87. But on the difficulty, that sort of hasn't made as much of a difference as I was hoping. I thought we might have got a slight drop, but yeah, we got the difficulty adjustment yesterday, and it's up 1.35, so 127.6 now. Not ideal. We had this very nice lull, very nice 2 weeks. We'll have to see what the July numbers bring for the US miners. I suppose they should, be mining the same amount. It's just they'll have mined it a little bit cheaper for July. But yeah, now it's back sort of at the highs for the remainder of July, and now at the end up ever so slightly. And the recent sort of lulls in hash rate haven't been sort of, well, they've been combated by those spikes to sort of 1.1, 1.15 zeta hash. So yeah, we are at too quick on the block time, and they're sort of, this is August the 8th, so it is a little bit of a way away. 2 weeks, just slightly under 2 weeks. And yeah, at the moment they're projecting 1.18% rise to 129, which we really don't want, but I suppose have to expect. So there you go. It's only a day old. And looking on the very zoomed out liquidity chart, I still like to sort of take this from the beginning of 2024 because that was the start of the ETFs. And yeah, it certainly seems to have become more correlated since the start of the ETFs, basically. Whether this is just an anomaly and it's got nothing to do with it, there's no sort of cause between the two, there is just correlation, remains to be seen. But so far, it seems to have worked. This is global liquidity, of course, moved on by 12 weeks. So the period here with no price is the last 12 weeks of the global liquidity index. So we'll have to see if price follows it, of course. It's been lagging behind a little bit. Presumably, I sort of kind of thought, it was heading up there. We sort of got this 123, and I think it could have possibly got there if we didn't have this big 80,000 Bitcoin sale. So, yeah, we'll have to see if, if we bounce back from that. Obviously, implied price at the moment is sort of 137,000, and sort of in, a month's time, basically, it's pushing up to sort of 150, 156, even 160,000 in, yeah, exactly 1 month's time, 27th of August. So, yeah, I have to see in 1 month if we're at 160. That would be incredible for the miners, and I would probably be selling an absolute fortune. But there you go. And in 2 months, we're up at 190. So potential for a sort of, mid-term blow off top. Whether that would be the actual top of the cycle remains to be seen. We sort of had a reasonable pullback, had a bit of a dollar spike, so this does sort of seem to be somewhat impacted by the dollar, and then whether countries sort of do a lot of printing off the back of the low dollar, because that gives them sort of a bit of leeway to print more money. And then you've had the dollar sort of coming back down in the last week, so it's increased a little bit, but that sort of indicate, around mid to late September and October time, you could see quite a bit of volatility. Whether that means we sort of get a significant move up in Bitcoin price leading into this, and then a bit of chop around sort of 160 to 190 maybe. You have a lot of people saying that's it, it's over. But we'll have to see. And then whether that would be the market top, if it got to sort of 180, 190, and that was the top, that wouldn't be all that surprising, really. But yeah, a lot of people are sort of thinking that could be a lull, and then another large move to sort of 250, 300,000. I think that's optimistic, but potentially, if this chart holds, certainly would need another large increase in global liquidity. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Coins for the week, a very, very mixed bag. Bitcoin's actually down now, 0.23%. This is sort of fluctuating, obviously. Solana up 4.65%, so that's most of the sort of paper gain. Admittedly, it is a paper gain for me. There's sort of drastic doubts about how much Solana I actually own because it's in the NFTs, and some of them are sort of looking a little bit worse for wear. And yeah, I think I kind of have to prepare myself for the idea that I have lost a great deal of this SOL, which was a very, very poor decision to get into the NFTs, I would say. But there you go. Hopefully the miners and options on the miners can make me come back from that. But who knows? Ethereum up 2.5% from the week. Doing pretty good off those ETF inflows, presumably. That's been billions going into ETH. Chainlink down 0.8%. That had been following ETH somewhat, so it sort of trickled off a little bit. Helium down 9.5%. That's the worst for the week, although that had been sort of doing particularly well recently. Gito is completely flat. Radium up 8.6%, so I guess that is outperformer for the week. Metaplex down 2.6%, and Honey down 7.3%. Really is doing poor, that one. The sort of Google Maps alternative, not really panning out as I'd hoped, but yeah, still potential for it, I guess. So leave your thoughts in comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.